Hey there, this video is what you've been waiting for. It is the instructional video for making your snow person decoration. So here is a pile of all the things you should have gotten in your spirit bag. So I'm going to walk you through each piece. You also might want a few other things. So if you want to pause this video, you might want a cup of water. Any cup works. This is actually a cup I use for when I'm painting. You might want a pencil with an eraser. Erasers can help us make perfect circles with our paint. And if you have any other maybe napkins or paper towels, sometimes it's nice to just have those in case we have any spills. So I'm going to walk you through the supplies and how to set up your station. So please note that this paint is not washable, and the little note reminds you of that. So you really have to be careful not to get this paint on your clothes or any other surface like a table. It will wash out if you get it on your hands, just with some soap and water, but it doesn't come out of things like couches. It might not come off of other things like a table or a chair, and it definitely won't come out of clothes. However, if you do spill, it's really important to wash it immediately. So for example, if I got some on my desk, if I wash it off right away with some water, it might come off just fine. So the quicker you can clean up, the better. So I am going to take everything out of the bag and set up my painting space. So you should have gotten a small piece of newspaper. If you want to grab a bigger piece that you have at home, feel free to do that. So you're going to spread that out. That's like your tablecloth. You have your wood chip. It also already has a loop tied, so you can hang it up as a decoration. You should have a paintbrush. You should have your paints. And then you got a small little paper towel to use. You can also have some bigger pieces if you have some at home. Okay, I'm going to bring my water over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remind you that this decoration is totally up to you for style. So I've shared with you in these instructions in your slideshow, you have some pictures that are similar to this. So there's different ways that you can create your snow person's face. So lots of different styles. I'm just going to show you one for the purpose of this video, but you can take inspiration from some of these or any other way that you want to create your snow person's face. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to paint the white background. So I'm only going to open up the paint that I want to use. So really carefully, I'm going to open up the white. Now, remember, if I get this on my fingers, it's not a big deal. It can wash off, but I'm trying not to spill it anywhere else. So I recommend putting the white paint on using what's called a dry brush technique. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to dip it in the white paint, but then I'm going to dab some of the white paint off. I only like a little bit of white paint at a time. So I'm going to dab some of it off. And I like to just go over my ornament kind of lightly because I think it looks a little bit cooler when I can see the wood showing through. I like those little wood rings from the tree. So I don't like to have too much paint on my brush. So I'm going to kind of give you some inspiration for a dry brush technique. I like to kind of mix the paint around. I don't like to put on too much at a time because I like the wood showing through. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So you can kind of see that I'm just putting on just enough to cover the surface, but you can see the wood peeking through. I also don't personally want my edges to be perfect. I like some wood showing. I like some of the brown to peek through. So feel free to make your snow person any way you'd like. Some people like to cover it with white and you can't see any of the wood. It's really up to you. So I would be happy with something like this. Now, the next thing, once you're happy with your white, you got to let it dry. So I'm going to hold this up to the camera. You can see some of my wood rings peeking through the paint. I also left my edges a little rough. I personally like it that way. And then you need to let this white dry. So here's where the water comes in. We want to get all of the white paint off. So I swish my paintbrush around. I'm also going to use my paper towel and just dry it off. As long as when I dry it off, it's just water, no more paint, I know I'm good to go. Now, you need to let this dry. And the reason is if you start painting on with wet paint, it's going to pick up that white and it's going to mix together and change how the paint looks. So what I've done is I actually created one earlier. I put a little more paint on that one, and I'm going to be using the dry ornament to continue. So at this point in the video, you're probably going to have to pause and you're going to let yours dry. So this is just a reminder. You can put as much or as little paint as you'd like, and then we're going to let it dry. So we're going to let some time pass. And then once my ornament or my decoration or my wood disc is dry, I'm going to go back and do some of my decorations. So I'm going to close my white paint because I'm finished with it. Okay, I'm going to do the nose next. So I'm going to grab the orange paint and open that. Okay. There's only a little bit because you probably don't need too much. You have some options here. You can use the paintbrush side if you want it to be a little bit thinner. You can use the end of the paintbrush. You could use a toothpick. So I'm going to make my nose. I'm going to try the end of the paintbrush just to model how you can use that. So I'm going to just kind of use the end of my paintbrush to create kind of a carrot shape. I'm going to put a little bit there in the middle, and I'm going to drag the paint around until I'm happy with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. I'm happy with it right there. Carrots aren't always perfect. I'm going to rinse off the handle. I'm going to wipe it on my paper towel. Okay. So I'm happy with that nose. Now that nose is going to take a while to dry because if you notice, I kind of have a good amount of paint, but it's going to have some nice little texture and bumps to it like a real carrot. So I'm going to close that orange and I'm going to open up the black. So I'm going to show you some ways to do the eyes or the mouth. So I mentioned earlier, if you have a brand new eraser, it can really help you make circles. So I'm going to show you how to use this. It's kind of like a stamp. So you'd put it into the paint and I'll show you on my paper towel. So if I use that, it creates kind of like a little round stamp. It's perfectly circle. So I'm going to use that. I put just a little bit of paint on there. Okay. And I'm going to use this for my eyes. So there's one eye. And here is the second one. Now, if you didn't have a pencil, you can always just use your paintbrush. So I'm going to rinse that off. So hopefully I can use this pencil again. Okay, so those are the eyes, and I'm happy with those. And now you get to be creative on the mouth for your snow person. So remember, you have some inspirations. You can be using some little dots if you want to. You can do a line. You could do like squiggly lines. I like the idea of the little dots, like little pieces of coal, maybe. So I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush again, and I'm going to put a little bit of black paint, and I'm going to use that kind of like a little stamp. And I'm okay if they're not all the same size. I'm going to get more paint when I need it. There we go. Okay. So I'm happy with that. I'm pretty happy and satisfied. Now, there's some things that you can do. You can take your black and you can go back and you can make your carrot have some little lines on it if you'd like. So I'll show you what that could look like. So there's some lines on my carrot. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. So I kind of make my carrot look like it has some lines in it. I'm going to mix it. There we go. Okay. There we go. That looks kind of like a nice little carrot. And then what you can also do is you can go back and add any other details you want. For example, I'm going to put some little white specks into the eyeballs of my snow person to kind of look like it's shining. So I'm going to open up my white paint again. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush, and I'm just going to put a little white dot near the top of each eye. A little more on there. There we go. I like that. I think it makes it have a little bit of personality. So have some fun with this. You can also, when this side is dry, if you want to decorate the other side of your ornament, you can turn it over and you can do something here. You can paint whatever you want. Have fun with it. And hopefully this video was helpful. I can't wait to see how your snow person looks.